Hey, are you getting as crazy as I'm getting, Truth Seeker? Especially about what the at 1 o'clock this morning, what the Christian terrorists did to Medicare? Boy, these people have no mercy whatsoever, do they? Again, as I've said before, I can't understand what is motivating these people to destroy the economic stability of this country, to rip to pieces every single part of the social safety net that has been established over 80 years. They really are destructive bastards. It is insane. This so-called, what's it called? The One Big Beautiful Bill Act. That's what this is being called. It's a mammoth tax and immigration bill that would add so much to the national debt that a certain thing happens. I'll get to it in a minute. The way the world is set up there, that in this case is going to force nearly $500 billion in cuts to Medicare beginning next year. Now, I don't know how to even talk about this stuff. I really don't, because on the one hand, this is the fulfillment, you might say, of what Trump promised on the campaign trail in reverse. Remember, he said he's never going to touch Medicare. Oh, I wouldn't put down. No. Well, the way they're getting around this, they're not mentioning we're going to cut Medicare by $500 billion. This is what these Christian snakes are doing. They're covering up their action by using language that makes, well, in real time to real people, it makes no sense. But the fact that this is going to crash and burn was reported by the Congressional Budget Office. That is Congress's nonpartisan bookkeeper. And late last night, the CPB, CBP, well, whatever, Congressional Budget, CBO, thank you very much, issued this report saying the Medicare is going to hit a brick wall. Trump and the Christian demons' so-called budget reconciliation package, that's the one that's called the One Big Beautiful Bill Act. First of all, it will add $2.3 trillion to the deficit over 10 years. Now these are the Christian terrorists who, and Trump, who said, well, I'm going to reduce the deficit on day one. Well, I'm going to end the war in Gaza on day one. Well, I'm going to end the war in Ukraine on day one. Well, I'm going to reduce the price of eggs on day one. And this rotten son of a bitch has done nothing but travel to the Middle East to make deals for him and his fucked up family. America can go fuck itself as far as Trump is concerned. He's doing nothing for the country. He's doing everything for his scammy, filthy family. Now, the budget office, the Congressional Budget Office, CBO, made these projections based on fact, not based on Trumpian bullshit. And what they projected, it forces budget officials to mandate across-the-board spending cuts that would hit the federal health insurance program for seniors and people with disabilities. Now, here's the way I understand it, and I'm getting some help here, I think, from New York Times or somebody. But here's the deal. When legislation passed by these Christian terrorists, when it significantly adds to the national debt, and by the way, it already exceeds $36 trillion, right? Something is triggered called sequestration, or compulsory budgetary reductions. This is how these sneaky fuckers do this. They don't have to go on the record as voting against Medicare, but they are. Now, in this scenario, Medicare cuts would be capped at 4% annually, or $490 billion. That's where the $500 billion figure comes in, over 10 years. This is according to the Congressional Budget Office. And they reported this in response to a request from Pennsylvania Democratic Representative Brendan Boyle. He is the top Democrat on the Budget Committee. Now, Timothy McBride, who is a health economist at Washington University in St. Louis, said this, quote, having Medicare cuts suddenly enter the discussion has struck a lot of people by surprise. Taking out 4% of the Medicare budget might not sound like much, but everything hurts at this point. Hurts? Do you realize what is going to happen? No, neither do I. That's why I'm trying desperately to figure this shit out. Now, the reductions are not at this point. Remember, this is just these filthy bastards in the House, these Christian filth in the House who've done this. It hasn't gone to the Senate. It hasn't gone to compromise committees or whatever the fuck they call them when the House and the Senate try to get together to reconcile what this branch wants. What this part of the legislative branch wants and what this part wants. And, they get together and try to work it out. So the reductions at this point are not a foregone conclusion. The Christian terrorists could tell the toilet rat to disregard the reconciliation package's debt impact and pass new legislation to reduce the deficit or change federal budget scorekeeping rules or do something. So there is an exit ramp where these Christian demons could stop short what this great, big, beautiful Bill Act really talks about. But they're not going to do it. Oh, fuck no, they're not going to do it. Now, allowing cuts to Medicare to any degree, but especially $500 billion. Oh, come on. It's probably going to come with some dire consequences, some of which will be political. The toilet rat, remember on the campaign trail, he swore off reducing Medicare benefits. Oh, we're not going to touch it. Oh, we're not going to touch it. And the Christian demons have pointedly excluded cutting money from Medicare as part of their tax and immigration package. Any cut in Medicare funding, according to economists, not these political vermin, but any cut in Medicare funding would have a chilling effect on older Americans and people with disabilities at a time when a fast-aging population, ours, and rising health care costs, ours, are already putting tremendous strain on the Medicare system. What we need is more money into Medicare, which could be handled so simply. We've talked about this before. But here's the deal. If this goes through, dozens, if not hundreds of hospitals, especially in rural areas that rely on Medicare for more than half of their funding, will go belly up. They will not be able to exist anymore. And then the rural folk who were so lied to and bullshitted by the toilet rat and these filthy goddamn Christians, then they will understand what they have done with their vote by putting these demons into the U.S. House or the Senate. So, the guy from Washington University said, quote, if you start whacking at these programs, these rural hospitals will not survive. I wonder if the people who make use of rural hospitals, obviously people who live in rural areas, I wonder if they understood this when they voted for this filthy pig bastard. No, I'm sure they didn't. I wonder if they understood it when they voted for this slimy Christian terrorist who, during the campaign, whenever the campaign was, would stand there with their little goddamn crosses on and, well, let's have a prayer before we start the meeting and all this other horse shit. I wonder if the people who voted for them realized what these devils were about to do to them. Probably not. Now, it's unclear at this point exactly how these cuts might affect Americans and healthcare providers. However, we have an inkling, we have an idea, because economists who keep an eye on this shit say that what to be expected for people who rely on Medicare, hospitals, whatever, will be funding cuts for doctors, hospitals, insurance companies, higher premiums for patients. Oh, these son of a bitches. Jonathan Gruber, chairman of the economics department at MIT, said, quote, a cut of this magnitude to Medicare would be very, very large. What Republicans have done in the past is just waived the rules, and I presume they'll do that again. Now, what he meant by that is when these dumb bastards, these Christian zombies, when they realize what they've done, when people realize what they've done and start to complain, start to write or call their representative and say something along the lines of, what in the fuck have you done? Why are you doing this? Don't you not realize my whole family relies on Medicare and Medicaid? Why are you taking this away from? Well, the reason they're taking it away from people who are going to be shocked, I tell you, shocked, is because the Christian terrorists do not care. They're like Trump. They don't give a shit about their constituents. They care nothing. What they do care about is bringing the whole goddamn Democratic Republic of the United States down to rubble. And out of that, they can have their Christian fascism. And Trump is right there. Yep. Okay. Let's go get him, boys. Now, even if lawmakers do find a way to sidestep these forced Medicare cuts, economists say there are ways other parts of the tax bill could spill into Americans' Medicare benefits. For example, this eliminating taxes on tips, which I read the other night, was passed by unanimous voice vote or something. Oh, big fucking deal. But even if eliminating taxes on tips and overtime, for example, would probably result in lower payroll taxes. And payroll taxes are a key source of funding for Medicare as well as for Social Security. Do you see what they're doing to us? With their eyes wide open. And here we are with our eyes wide shut. The Christian terrorists are also proposing a bunch of cuts, big cuts to Medicaid that would leave nearly 9 million people. I'm not talking about Medicare now. I'm talking about Medicaid. 9 million people without health care coverage and more than 7 million without insurance. Oh, my God. Now, those cuts to Medicaid obviously would also put a strain on Medicare funding, according to what's his name, this expert, professor, whatever, and put an added strain, particularly for the 13 million Americans who are enrolled in both programs, Medicare and Medicaid, and rely on Medicaid to cover the Medicare premiums and copays. It's all going to be smashed to the fucking ground if this makes it through reconciliation or whatever it's called when both houses of Congress try to resolve things. Now, it hasn't gone to the Senate yet. And I doubt, I'm saying this very optimistically, I just seriously doubt that all of the Republican Christian devils in the Senate are going to vote to destroy millions of old people, make them choke to death on their own vomit, make them die of heart attacks because they can't get to a hospital because the local hospital is closed. Make them, you understand what I'm saying. Hi, Truth Seekers. Mike Malloy here. You know, the Progressive Voices Network brings you commercial-free commentary from today's leading progressive radio hosts and pundits, like me, Mike Malloy, 24 hours a day. I'm not your typical old guy from the 80s or the 90s talk radio host, and Progressive Voices is not your typical talk radio network. It's a listener-supported nonprofit with no corporate control whatsoever over our broadcast. So hosts like me, Mike Malloy, are free to rant and scream and carry on about whatever we like. We're often controversial, but we're never boring. Weeknights, 9 p.m. in the East, 6 p.m. in the West on the Progressive Voices Network. Always progressive, always on. I'm Mike Malloy. Keep it lit.